Hey all, welcome back. This is a little share. It's actually an extraction from the longer format of the live Q&A recently. And I thought this question and answer might be generally helpful for some people. I'll try to have it kind of defined in the title so that you're only clicking on it if it's something that will be useful to you in your claim or your post-claim activity with the SSA with regard to either Social Security disability, SSI dependent benefits, or retirement benefits, or anything else that could touch on the Social Security world that we all swim in right now. So I hope it helps, and I will talk to you later. If you ever want to be there live, that would be Wednesday, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the usually about 2 hours Q&A session, so anybody can ask their Social Security questions if they so desire. Okay, I will see you then. Bye, guys. This up. I want to ask, if I can't get all my old records, will the SSA honor my new medical records? Well, it depends what you mean by honor them. I was denied reconsideration last month, but my letter says I can qualify for SSDI if I become disabled. I submitted my MRI a month before they make a judgment on my claim. I have many disabilities, but don't know what to do to help win my case. Blessings. Blessings to you too. Okay, let's just go back to the first one. If I can't get, so the old records, Mrs. K, is what you're going to probably be relying on to prove that the disability started back when. So if you don't have old records, you generally can't prove that your disability started back when because you don't have any records to suggest that they started back then. I have to get this up before it gets really distracting. And they will, of course, honor your new medical records, but the new medical records are about treatment today. It's going to talk about your condition today. It might allude to past surgeries and such, which, you know, usually they're pretty well taken. Like they're not going to disbelieve when a doctor says you had a surgery in 2018 and another one in 2019. Although you should be able to get those records. They're not so old yet. Although, you know, speaking of records, I know back in the day when things weren't digital, a lot of medical providers and states or medical associations within the states would have kind of it seemed like a 7-year expectation that the doctor's offices would maintain a patient's records for 7 years after the patient stopped treating. Now, a lot of times they didn't want to do that. And I can't tell you back in the day how many times I heard, oh, there was a warehouse fire. So the records are gone. I mean, nobody really believed it, right? Now that it's digital, there is really no reason for a 7-year cutoff. I mean, I suppose they're saying, well, you know, storage costs money, blah, blah, blah. Barely. I mean, hardly. It's not like AI, which takes a lot of energy. The storage, digital storage is tiny, small, and I don't think it takes that much, particularly when they can condense things. But so try to get your old records. And you said you can't get all of them. Maybe you can get some of them, do the best you can. Sometimes it doesn't take every piece because some of the pieces are not going to be relevant. So maybe you have the nooks and crannies there all covered. You sent in your MRI and a month later you were denied. That could mean they didn't look at the MRI, or it could, and the MRI just isn't enough because it's a diagnostic, but maybe the complaints of how it makes you feel, how it limits your functioning are not really expressed in the medical records. That's really important. Speaking to your doctors about the day-to-day problems. And I know that's hard because sometimes they're rushing you out the door, or they spend all of 5 minutes, or you're not sure the medical assistant taking her notes or plugging things in is recording them. I know one way to get around this potentially is some portals want you to pre-register before you even go. I know the big ones around my area, they use Epic and MyChart, and they also have a thing where they email you before your appointment or text you and say, hey, can you go here and pre-register? And that's when you kind of can put in different things. So you might, depending on what your system has, if anything, it could be where you're supposed to put down all your current complaints. Have you had any of these problems? You know, and you might be able to get a little bit in that way. Yes, your letter says you can qualify for SSD if you become disabled. And that's true of anybody. So that's really, they're not telling you anything new. They're saying, we don't think that whatever level looked at your thing, Mrs. K, initial or recom, they're saying we didn't see enough evidence to show you were disabled before your date last insured, or if your date last insured is in the future, up until the present, we haven't seen enough. So you want to either continue treating so you can get more in, particularly for DLI is in the future, or if it's not in the future, that's always a struggle, then you have to get more from the past. And that's just all there is to it. It's a shame when we delay too long in filing for our SSD after we stop working. I don't know what your situation is and your dates, but I would suggest, I mean, if you don't have a representative, I would suggest you get one. By the way, a colleague of mine